Hi, good afternoon. My name is Avinash, and I work as a senior manager for research and analytics at Intuit, which is just down the road here. And I'm going to talk to you about how do you make customer-centric decisions on the web, and everything to do with decision-making around websites, and what is it that we do at Intuit, what's our mindset and strategy. And I'll end with about 6 or 8 points of view that I have around how to do this well. And you can clap or boo, and we'll see how that goes. So these things are supposed to start with an I, me, myself slide. You know, I'm supposed to sell books or consulting, and I have neither, sadly. So I thought that I'll still use the 2 minutes, and I'll share with you something these are my kids. Damini's 3, 4.5, and Chirag is 2. And Damini's name in Hindi means lightning. And we called her Damini because I wanted her to be really strong and secure and ultra-feminist and all that. And she's achieved all my hopes and dreams at the age of 3. I was hoping it would happen by 18 or so. And Chirag is 2.5. And he has this amazing sense of curiosity and wonderment. And perhaps it's that age, but he just makes me want to be him. And my kids are the reason that I have all the passion and the drive, and they mean everything to me. And I thought that I'll use my slide for that purpose. So there you go. So I work at this little company called Intuit. It has around $2.3 billion of revenue. And the great thing about Intuit is that it's actually a collection of a lot of different little companies that Intuit's purchased over the course of years. And we do things that you've never imagined. We do payroll, we do credit card processing, we have software for construction businesses, and everything you can imagine for small businesses, soup to nuts. The interesting thing about Intuit is it's number 1 and number 2 in every business it is in. It roughly owns around 80% of the market share in every one of these businesses. So it's a delight and a joy to work at a company like that. I'm sure you know. The interesting thing about Intuit is that it has 67 websites the last time I counted in December. And I bet you the number is more like 90 now. We just simply can't keep track of them. And I'm responsible from the corporate function to create, provide platform operations and strategy around web research and analytics. So that's a little bit about my role. And I'll stop selling now. So you go to a lot of these presentations, and you walk away from them like, that was interesting. And my goal is not to have that happen today. I want to move you down. Hopefully I'll challenge you in some of your thinking, and so you'll think that, and that's okay. Or hopefully I'll move you up, because I like that. I like that a lot more. So no more interesting stuff. And there would be no good analytics person without goals. I do have goals, and so I usually have the numbers flipped, but there's such an intelligent audience that I'm going for a higher bar. So I have 2 slides that, in my mind, represent the challenge that we have with web analytics, or at least what's called web analytics. And here's the first one. It's a quote that somebody posted in the Yahoo Analytics group. I'll let you read it. This is all really true. You guys sell stuff, but people who have to use it, this is exactly how they feel. And the interesting thing is, to me, it's all constantly fascinating as to how long it takes somebody to figure this out in a company that I go to. Some people figure this out in 6 weeks. For other people, the journey is continuing after 6 years. So it's like fascinating to see this journey unfold. But the bigger challenge with web analytics is represented by this slide. This is one of the industry-leading tools. Some of you may know what it is. But what I did is I just took screenshots of, and you get 3 options when you get into the tool, path, traffic, commerce. And then I took one of the ones on the top, and then what I did is I highlighted 6 completely random metrics. And this is what you get. So for 6 completely and utterly randomly metrics, you get at least 8 to 10 options each. This tool has achieved even more features since I took the screenshot. So 8 times 6 times gazillion metrics. So in a world that looks like this, the beautiful thing about, somebody gave me a T-shirt, a Google Analytics T-shirt at eMetrics. And the beautiful thing about this slide and the T-shirt is, If you're a half-competent website, every one of this number over time goes up and to the right over time. As long as you're half-competent. So revenue, page views, page errors, people hating you, everything goes up and to the right over time. And the Google Analytics t-shirt says at the back, to the right, up and to the right. So in a world that looks like this, how do you actually know what are your critical few metrics? This is a huge challenge. It's amazing how many times I ask people the question why your website exists, and they cannot answer that question. Even if they do, it's 5 paragraphs long. If you cannot answer in 5 seconds and 10 words why your website exists, you cannot answer this question. You should simply turn off your analytics application. More importantly than that, people believe that if only they had enough data, and I'm sure there are really, really smart people here at Google who will use lots and lots of data and make the data sing. But my personal hypothesis is that no matter how much you torture all this data, by the way, there is no other thing in the world that throws off as much data as the web. That's beautiful. You take a Google Analytics tag, you put it on your site, 15 seconds later, you're in business. Megabytes and terabytes of data spewing out at you. In this world, no matter how much you torture all of the data, you cannot ever, ever figure out if you're doing right by the customer. And most people who do web analytics think that this is possible, and I think that it's not possible. This leads to my controversial conclusion that traditional web analytics, as we know it, is dead. And the sooner you come to grips with it, the better it is. And so what's going to take the place of web analytics is something I call web insights. A very subtle nuance. So let me explain to you what the world of web insights looks like. This is the world of web analytics. You measure page views and hits and screen resolutions and top exit pages, or God forbid you'll measure daily unique visitors. And you can diagnose if you live in this world. It's because after you do all this stuff, you had no idea what action to take. It's very, very difficult for you to live in the world of web analytics and go to your stakeholders and recommend actions. This is how the world of web insights looks like. Some suggestions of metrics for me. You do click intensity analysis, primary purpose, task completion rates, visitor trends, VOC, multi-channel revenue impact. And the way you know that you live in the world of web insights is that no matter what report you look at, out of every open part of your body, actions come out. This is how you know that you live in this world. So let me tell you briefly the solution that we have built at Intuit. And it starts with this mindset, and it's called the Trinity. At the center of the Trinity strategy is the desire to have actionable insights and metrics. And as you can imagine, the Trinity has 3 different components. The first of which is the world of traditional web analytics. Everything you can do with clickstream analysis. You do click density, segmentation, search, internal search, key metrics. All of the things you can do with clickstream data in order to understand the intent of your customers. On the best day, if you torture all your clickstream data, all you can do is understand the intent of your customers. The second prong of the Trinity strategy is outcomes. And it's amazing how many times we struggle in order to figure out why our website exists and what the outcome should be. It's a standard interview question, by the way. If you interview with me, it's a standard interview question. Outcomes. Revenue, conversion rates, problem resolution, timeliness. But no matter what reason your website exists, there has to be an outcome. And it cannot just be conversion rate. I have a blog on my, I have a post on my blog today. It says, stop measuring conversion rate or obsessing about conversion rate. But the third part of Trinity is perhaps the most beautiful, and I call it experience. It includes things that we do at our company around measuring customer satisfaction, net promoter scores, doing multivariate A/B testing, lab testing, follow me homes. Our company founder, Scott Cook, really believes and sells this strategy called customer-driven innovation. And we follow humbly along his path, trying to figure out how is it that we can get into the heads of the people who are browsing our websites without invading their privacy. In the end, for us, the Trinity mindset is around trying to do all of these things in a way that we can understand the customer experience so well that we can influence their behavior that leads to the win-win outcomes, both for us and our customers. And it's actually, we've often done studies and things, and we often leave money on the table because our focus is customer satisfaction and net promoter. if Quicken Deluxe is the right product for you at $40, we want to help you figure that out and only buy the $40 product and not Quicken Premier Home and Business, which costs $80. Because you will buy Quicken Deluxe today and come back for Quicken Premier Home and Business in 2 years. If you buy Quicken Premier Home and Business today, you will never come back to us again. So I'll show you some screenshots of how what this strategy means in reality. And the first one's doing behavior analysis. For us, we use a little tool called ClickTracks. It's from a little company in Santa Cruz. And the great thing about ClickTracks is it's infinite power to do segmentation. On the fly, really fast, hyper-aggressive segmentation of your data. And so everybody does site overlay. I think it's a site overlay called click density analysis. But everybody does site overlay. The beauty of ClickTracks is I can segment data to figure out what various different segments of people are doing on my website, not in aggregate. So the red numbers you see on the top are people who end up buying on our website. And the green numbers are everybody else. So we go in and actually see if people come to us from Google, from Yahoo, or Virtual SEM campaigns. What is it they do on our website? In reality, we throw this open to a marketer and they can really begin to understand what is going on their web pages, on their website in a way that no table or graph in Excel can do. Not just this, you can actually figure out really simple basic things. So on many companies, I'm sure even at Google, a lot of people obsess about the homepage. Rightly so in your case, obviously. But we want web analytics to tell people that only 6.8% of the site traffic sees the homepage. Stop obsessing about it. If 40% of your resources are working on the homepage, it's probably not a good idea. We've also worked with ClickTracks to build innovations, small features like this one, which tells us for our top keywords, right, exactly on the page, what keywords are driving the organic traffic. And the beauty is not just everybody, but what I've chopped off here is words that drive purchasers, words that drive repeat visitors, words that drive something that I want to get done on the website in a real easy and handy way. Now, of course, you can do the simple stuff. Where do people come from? Where do they go? The interesting thing is these kinds of graphics can actually tell you that for us, at least for this particular campaign that we were running, MSN was higher in terms of conversion, even though it got lower traffic than Google. So we can actually go back and preach that you should have, multi-search engine strategy might be a good thing. Spend money on Google, that's good because they have me here, but definitely try a multi-channel strategy. Not only e-commerce segmentation is pretty easy to do. This graph you see, this page you see is actually a screenshot of our support website. Nobody's there to buy. You actually you're not in the acquisition generation business in your support website. You create sucky products, more people come. You create great products, nobody comes. So should you measure unique visitor trends over time for this website? Probably not a good idea. What you really want to know is, of all the people who come to their website, I don't like using this, but this is too high. But you actually really want to know of people who actually see the content, we want to see how many called on the phone versus people who did not. Now that is beautiful. I'm the hugest of fans of segmentation. You really want to understand why your website exists, what its goals and objectives are, and then throw an application at it that allows you to segment and find insights. This is my last slide on this one, but this is sort of a 3,000-page website that is modeled into 4 stages. Some of the boxes represent pages, other boxes here represent entire reams and reams of content. A lot of people do path analysis. And I think we do path analysis because in the world of log files from 10 billion years ago, it was somebody probably in IT stood up and said, look, every time somebody clicks, I can actually put them in the right order. Said, path analysis was born. The interesting thing is on most websites, less than 1% of the traffic actually uses the same path. So what kind of decisions would you make from it? Complete and utter waste of time. I will express a lot of opinions. You can disagree with me, obviously. I'm not selling anything, remember? I call this macro usage analysis report because in a very brief screenshot, it actually represents what a 3,000-page website looks like. Not only that, it actually tells you what content is being consumed on the website and how much. But the most beautiful thing is, the darker the color of blue on this slide, on this screenshot, the more influential that page is in getting somebody to a goal. Even if 99% of your site traffic follows the exact same path, wouldn't you die to know what page in there was most influential? this attempts to do that. And it's so dumb in its logic. It just says which page convinced more people to go on. Like, how simple and yet extremely beautiful. And we can also validate that the pages we're putting up are actually helping our customers. Oh, this is just so pretty, and I just threw it in. But it actually also tells you if people don't do what you want them to do on the website, what is it that they do? So in a way, you can actually play with all this data and model customer experience exactly as the customer experiences, not as Brett Crosby might want to have it be. Yeah, very, very powerful. So the next one, I'll run through this probably quick because you probably know this, but we've built actually a really large data warehouse called Polaris. It's our nickname for it. Standard star schema Solaris Oracle. And what Polaris does is using standard ETL tools, pulls data from all of these sources that you see here. Our tags, our web logs, our orders database, the other metadata sitting around the company, our corporate data warehouse, and allows us to see end-to-end view of the customer information. So we can actually measure, we did this a couple of years ago, but we can measure cost per click, we can measure cost per unique visitor, we can measure cost per order, and every sub-nuance of that cost per order automatically. It's just a random example. But allowing our data to, it's simple things like actually sitting on the same metadata as the retail channel is, allows us to actually go out to our senior management and put retail and web together and mean the same thing. Because very soon I think people are going to figure out that web is just boring old web. They're going to want to measure success on the web exactly as they do through the other channels. Having this strategy sets us up for success for that. And use standard Brio clients, standard business intelligence tools, slice and dice, create reports that look like that, simple ones, end-to-end. The beautiful thing is because so many of our e-commerce websites sits on the same platform, it means that we apply the same metadata and definitions and everything computations for all our core KPIs. We do it for QuickBooks, everybody else gets it. Happy birthday. You do it once and everybody else can use it. But more importantly, what it allows us to do is actually allow this creation of these sandbox type environments. This is JavaScript on top of Brio, to allow our end users to slice and dice the data any which way they want it without actually having to create every gyration and every computation of every report under God's green earth. So this report, for example, this little screenshot replaces like 30 odd reports. But it allows our marketers to go in and pick the channels that they want, in this particular case channels, and do very quick if-then analysis for revenue and visitor trends for the last 24 months. Oh, and people like having their own metadata, so we actually have a finance person who likes to see the world exactly as she prefers. And this is her real acronym. So she can go in and click her own numbers on, say apply, and she can get the view of the world exactly as she prefers. She's really important, so she gets her own stuff. But the last part of the Trinity strategy is customer experience. And I'm a huge fan of doing multivariate and experience testing. I'll touch on that a little bit later. We also do lab usabilities downstairs from where I sit in building 1. We have 8 usability labs with one-way mirrors and cameras on your faces and your computer screen. And it's a joy and delight to see customers. If you have not seen lab usability study with real people, I highly recommend it. It's very entertaining. Plus, it is a great learning experience. Real people are amazing. We also do follow me homes. So we actually will pay to go to your house, and we'll give you $300 or your office, and we'll sit and watch you interact with our software or our websites. Sometimes task-based, sometimes totally unrestricted. But the primary thing, one of the things we use that is truly scalable at Intuit we use the ACSI, the American Customer Satisfaction Index. It was developed by the University of Michigan. And we partner with a company called Foresee Results that has licensed this technology and applied it to the web. So the ACSI currently measures half of the US economy, so trillions of dollars of revenue. And instead of building one methodology of our own, we just use something that exists. At the end of the day, what the ACSI allows us to measure is a satisfaction score. As a result of your experience, how satisfied were you? Based all on a standardized methodology. But the great thing about the ACSI is for all customized elements that we have of our customer experience in this particular website, it allows us to measure satisfaction rates for all of those elements. This is a great way to take people out of the equation, especially company people. and put the customers back in, because this is customer rating all of these features. And we create a customized data model for every one of the websites, because it is always different. Every website exists for a different purpose, hopefully. But the most beautiful thing about this is this little column here. There's a very complex multivariate regression model behind this, and it actually calculates correlation between any of these things and changes to these things and its uber impact on customer satisfaction. And so, to translate real quick, people are not really happy on this website about transaction cost. 69 is the lowest score. So because we can only sell full price. Now, if you knew that, you would jump in and do coupons, or you would give discounts, or you would do those kinds of things. But in reality, what this model is telling us is that the correlation between transaction cost and you being satisfied from your experience is 0.4. So people are not really happy that we charge you full price, but that's not the reason they're unhappy. And then you can begin to go in and figure out what are the things that we should be working on that will have a statistically significant impact on customer satisfaction. Not just customer satisfaction, but future predictive behavior. So your likelihood to come back, your likelihood to buy from us, your likelihood to recommend us to your friends and neighbors and coworkers and everybody else. So in the end, you can actually find pockets of information, pockets of things that you need to figure out in order to actually influence customer experience in order to make a lot of money. Or in the case of our support websites, figure out how do we actually do things for our customers that result in them not picking up the phone and calling us, because it's very expensive for them to do that and for us to do that. Another great strength of using this model is that you can benchmark against best of the best. So we use two different benchmarks. We use the ACSI e-commerce index, which is all of the companies who set people's expectation about what a web should be. Amazon, eBay, Barnes & Noble, 1-800-Flowers, on and on and on. And the next index we use is the ACSI Tech Index, which contains Apple, HP, Gateway, and all. These scores are, by the way, available to anybody to see, the index scores, at theacsi.org. So you can actually go and get trends and everything else. And we can compare our websites against everybody else. In terms of changing mindsets, there is nothing that is as powerful as this. Because you can take yourself out of the equation, and you can go out and say, look, here's somebody who's figured out how to do this. Here are the benchmarks. Here are how we're doing. But this is probably one slide I would love for you to remember, if you remember anything that I say today. So one of the great points of view in usability is that if you do surveys, you should only ask 3 questions. We ask a lot more. We do ask the 3 big questions. And the first one is, why are you here? And the next one is, were you able to complete your task today? And if not, why not? 3 simple, humble questions. And it's amazing how the answer to the first one is always a surprise to everybody who owns a website. People are always surprised when they see the answers to the question, why are you here? Because amazingly, it turns out that people don't use our websites in the way we intended them to be used. It's always eye-opening for people to figure out, what are all the things that people are doing that I did not expect them to do? Not only that, but then you can go back and say, are you able to complete a task, yes or no? The blues, yes, the reds, no. Isn't it amazing that regardless of whether this is an e-commerce website or a support website, that such a large number of people can't complete their task? It's a very old, dated slide. But we go one farther. We actually go in and know exactly how many people are in each bucket. So on none of our websites can you do this. We simply don't do that at all. And yet, 7% of the traffic actually is coming for that purpose. But we also trend it over time. So while some of the numbers look bad, actually getting better. I think that before people get into implementing web analytics solutions on their website, as a complement to a cohesive web strategy, they should have this slide for their own website. They should be able to figure out what are the reasons people come to my website for, and are they able to do those tasks, and is this what I want them to do? But even after so primary purpose, task completion trends. Primary purpose, task completion trends. And the beauty is this actually sits in a nice little database, so you can go in and slice and dice the data any which way you want. In this case, we can actually slice the data by frequency of visits, and you can figure out insights from there. So the data is infinitely sliceable. And that's the beauty, is you're applying such complex statistics and mathematics on something as soft and fuzzy as voice of the customer. All of these great stuff is to get to this. If you were not able to complete your task today, why not? So all of this hardcore regression that's going on behind the scenes is still not to jump to action. Actually, all of it is to actually simply figure out segments of discontent. What is it people are not happy? Your customer is not happy on the website. And in the end, we do Pareto analysis, we do VOC categorization, we do all of these things that feed testing and experimentation on our websites. And that drives changes. And if you follow this methodology, there's no way that you're going to fail, because you're driving change in your strategy, your website, your experiences based on what the customers identify as are your problems. Okay. So one of the great things about this strategy and mindset is not simply that it exists in silos, but actually all of it is tied to each other. So in simple database terms, we have primary keys that pass back and forth everywhere. Completely and utterly anonymous, completely 100% anonymous, because we care about the privacy of our customers a lot. But you can actually take pockets of people who give you certain ratings on your website, and you can take their date shopper session identifiers and dump it into click tracks and see what they saw. Where did they click on our websites? Where did they get lost? Or you can actually take all of the people who completed a certain outcome and throw that back into your survey tool and figure out what is it that these people say about our website? What was the convince me to buy content on our website if they ended up buying, if they ended up submitting a lead, if they ended up doing something else? So the beauty of this mindset not comes in the fact that we have 3 silos, but we have 3 different tools that work and play ball with each other. It's supremely powerful. So now a few points of view. I call it the strategy in action. And the first one is that data quality sucks. And if you want to do great things on the web, you should just get over it. Because at least for the conceivable future, without violating your privacy, good data is hard to come by. It's just simply a manifestation of the world that we live in today. And there are many, many, many different reasons for it. Infinite number of reasons. And you whack one mole and the next one comes up, and then the next one, and then the next one, then the next one. So someday some smart person sitting in some cubicle in building 40 or 41 will figure out how to do this well. Until then, it's really, really important that you don't get stuck in this world and be unhappy. That's not a good thing. My own recommendation is that you should assume a level of comfort with the data, whatever is your comfort level. Actually, I could look at all of the Google Analytics data from my blog and I say, you know what, trust it around 60%. And you could look at it and say, you know what, I trust it 3%. And that's totally okay. It's really, really okay. I'm not going to try and change your mind. But the beauty is, if you have some semblance of confidence in the data, start taking action. That's really important. If I had 60% of the confidence on my data, I would move from here to New York, do drastically crazy things. You only have 3% confidence in the data, will probably change the doorknobs. And that's okay. You're starting to take some action. It's really, because people get stuck in trying to figure out why the data is all wrong. Once you start driving some action, find micro niches where you can actually segment data out and understand what is actually going on. So I'll take all of the keywords Avinash that are driving traffic to my blog from Google, and over time I'll look at the data and see why is it that this particular data doesn't seem to be looking really good. And over time, I think you'll get more and more comfortable with the data, and you understand its limitations, and you'll be able to actually increase your confidence from 3 to 5 to 14 to 20 to 80. You'll never have 100% confidence in data on the web, at least for the moment. But that's okay, because over time, consistency is great, and absolute numbers don't matter. At least not on the web, not as much as we like. The next one is experiment or go home. And so the original title was Experiment or Die. And I was counseled to change the title. And I'm like the hugest of fans of experimentation. I just absolutely love and adore it because of all of the benefits that come from it. But the reason you should experiment is because customers complain they don't give solutions. Actually, it's a good practice in doing usability never to ask customers for a solution because they have no idea. You just want them to articulate their problems really well as they possibly can. But the other one is the company employees don't represent customer point of view. You and I are too close to the company. Even if you actually use Google every single day and every browser you open is Google and you have Google Toolbar and Gmail and every Google offering under God's green earth, you're not representative of a Google customer and I of an Intuit customer. And yet it's amazing that of all of the websites that exist out there, company insiders actually dictate experience. And the higher up you go, the stronger the dictation becomes. The other thing is that the most phenomenal website experience is stale tomorrow. The web is changing around it. It's constantly evolved. It's always changing. And somebody else is coming up with new next Ajax Web 2.0, blah, 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 that's going to make the world better. But the most important reason is that I think that 80% of the time, company employees are wrong about what the customers want. So I love, love, love experimentation. This is an example of a simple ABC test, very, very simple one. And the point of view is that one of them is drastic, at least two of them are drastically different than the other. It's a simple test, and what we learned from this test was amazingly interesting things. But one of the biggest things that we learned from this test is you should not measure single goals for your A/B test that you run, or a multivariate test, or experience testing that you run. Most tools out there today will measure single goal, conversion rate, somebody saw a page, gave you a lead, or exited the website from this place or that. In this particular version, this is the simplest test you could run in your life. Single page, 3 different versions. It cannot get any more complex than this. And yet in this case, one of the versions was better for revenue, another one better for customer satisfaction. So if you do experimentation and testing, and you should, because there's no better way to change mindset, always try and measure multi-goal. It will differentiate you from your competitors. And the other thing that experimentation and testing is really, really good is that there are no such things as bad ideas from. And it allows us now to very cheaply create different versions of a page, run multivariate things on our website without ever having to go back to the admin of our building and say, your idea is terrible, and going to the founder of our company saying, your idea is fabulous. Actually, that's the real case here. One of this is from a company founder. And we can actually put everything up, all apples to apples, democracy pervades, and you can let the customers tell you what they want. And we've done really, really deep tests where we present completely and utterly different versions of our websites deep as you keep going deeper and deeper. And it's amazing what you can learn. If you haven't done this is just the most awesome thing, because you take your opinions out of the game and you let the customers decide. I don't think that you really care about this, but dashboards are great. Focus on the critical few. But the one thing I want you to take away from dashboarding things is this, is especially as you go higher up the chain of command, you don't want them to think too much. If you have dashboards that have massive amounts of numbers on them, and it means that she has to think, that's not a good thing. Because if she starts thinking, she's going to ask a lot of questions, and that's okay, but it will consume a lot of time. And you will have to give her all the background that will take 90 days. So as much as possible, present data, metrics, everything, all that is golden, but try as much as possible to put this little box. How is it that you want to fix things, any shortcomings that exist on your website today? Pre-chew the data so that people don't have to think too much. Don't hide the data. I'm not advocating that. This is a version that represents segmentation that you can do. Every single metric here is segmented, and because you're not supposed to read it, I will hide it. And the best practice for creating dashboards is to only have 8 metrics, 8 or less metrics on a page, in a font size that is 11 or higher. I really like this one because it brings together some of the things that we've talked about, but most of the time when I work with web analysts in our company, in other companies, they always sit in this abstract world of cookies and tags. And this is the language they actually use. But in reality, real people visit our websites, not TVs and UVs and shopper IDs. And our challenge, especially, I think this is my challenge as the person sitting in the web analytics and decision-making team, to figure out how do we get the human into the equation. And one of the ways we do this is real, is we create personas. And you've heard of personas before, but probably not from a web analytics team per se. But this is for one of our websites that it exists for advocacy. And that's a made-up name. But simply actually profiling the core customer segments in this manner, age group and how long they have used, what makes them feel confident and efficient, what do they need, actually fundamentally changed how we were running numbers through ClickTracks or Omniture or Google Analytics or anything, because suddenly it made all of those clicks all the more real. You see all this data put into experience design, usability testing, creating better navigation structures. But this is a fabulous way to bring customers to the table, especially for a web analytics team. If you're actually doing web analytics, one of my recommendations is that if you're analyzing a particular experience of your website, you should go try that experience yourself. Because an amazing number of people will just sit down with the tool, actually not go and look at the website and see what a customer is looking at. And it sounds fairly simplistic, but it happens amazingly often. Process is great. My one tip here is that for whatever analysis we do, try and figure this box out. We often do trends. We actually present insights. We say what actions we take. But it's rare for us to go back and say, as a result of this trend, what was the impact on the customer or the business? This is a fabulous way to connect with your decision makers. You put a line here that says we lost $10 million. It's fantastic in terms of taking action. This is an example of a repeatable process that we've created at Intuit. We follow Six Sigma and process excellence, whereby we have regularly scheduled processes that review data, look at the insights, present those, get buy-in, take actions. And the last one, some of you might have heard, is my 1090 rule. And so the goal for any company is to get the most fabulous value from an analytics implementation. And so this rule, by the way, the only tool under which this rule doesn't work is Google Analytics, sadly. But for everybody else, this rule applies. And the rule says that if you actually spend $10 on the analytics tools and professional services, that in order for you to get maximum value from this implementation, you have to spend $90 on brains. Because in the end, people are priceless. It is very, very hard to find people who can actually take all your terabytes of data and find one byte of insight that will add millions of dollars to your revenue. Because most often what happens is we provide our admin or a junior intern access to Google Analytics and expect them to drive change. And so if you buy a web analytics tool and use it in your company, make sure that the ratio looks roughly like that. It's not that Omniture is expensive. Omniture have massive amounts of data that will give you great insights. But you also need 6 of Brett, because he's really smart, to actually extract value from Omniture, or Web Trends, or HBX, or ClickTracks, whatever tool you implement. So I will send this out later, but know your critical few, segment, Trinity, primary purpose. You're wrong, people matter. So this is my blog, and this is a quote I stole from our company founder, Scott Cook. He uses this very often, and I really like it. And I put it at the end of every presentation because I think it's very apt. I'll be very happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Can you talk about the way in which your group works with other groups within Intuit?
Yes, in very generic terms. So the question was, how does our group work with the other groups at Intuit? So I report to the VP for the web at Intuit, and he's in the marketing function. So I'm a marketing person, supposedly. And we have, Intuit is organized by many different business units. This is all public. So you have Quicken, QuickBooks, TurboTax, Master Builder, ProTax, things like that. So for a while, actually the central team we had, we own everything soup to nuts. Actually, the first thing is we own everything end to end. So the tags that go on a page, the server that collects the data from the tags, it sits in-house, secured by our firewall, doesn't go to another third-party analytics person, and everything else you saw end to end, business analysts, user researchers, everything in one team. A team of only 7. So for a while, it worked very well that we did all the analysis for the business unit. Because the scale wasn't there, people were not asking all these questions, so it worked fine for a little while. Now we've evolved to a model where we want to create a center of excellence at Intuit in our team. But we don't want to do all of the deep down work for all of our business units. So in a very strategic way, we're staffing each business unit with a senior business analyst or senior user researcher, whatever the core skill set is needed, and they'll dotted line into us, but they're actually in the business unit, sitting in that building, going to their staff meetings, living and breathing that particular business unit's business. And yet, they tap into our platform and our strategies, standards, benchmarks, everything else. So they don't have to worry about capturing data, they have to worry about analyzing data and tying it back to the needs of that specific business unit, because I cannot get close to all these 67 websites in multiple business units. So that's the sort of structure we've evolved to now, and we'll see how it goes. But the process is we'll get somebody, and we'll help hire the business unit, somebody who will, I was going to say brainwash, it's a good word. Educate, yes, change mindset. And then they'll be in the business unit, partnering very closely with us, but executing for the business unit.
Have you looked at all into analytics for the mobile web?
So the question was if we had looked into analytics for mobile web, and the great answer is no. And it's simply because we haven't had the bandwidth to go that far. I'm always on my BlackBerry and BlackBerrying everything, but we've found that we're not detecting too many user agent IDs, enough of a percent that would be worth a while to go that far. But I love my BlackBerry. I would die. I'm in Bali, and I really hated the fact that BlackBerry doesn't work in Bali. How dare they? So I think it's going to be the platform for the future, but sadly we haven't invested enormous amounts into that. But we're having great conversations with some folks in Japan, and I gave a speech in London, and they're doing something really interesting. So there are solutions. If you want to do stuff around mobile, there are actually solutions out there that are doing very advanced things, but we ourselves haven't invested much in it yet. Sorry.
So what's your rationale for, I guess, outsourcing tools, especially since it feels like you're using multiple tools to measure the same thing? What's your rationale?
Yeah. So of the three things, two are outsourced. ClickTracks or clickstream analysis is sort of an external solution we've purchased. And the ACSI survey-based methodology is something also we've purchased. But the data warehouse we built ourselves. And the rationale is extremely simple. We don't want to invest in something that somebody else is already smarter about. We'll never get that smart. Like, it is impossible for me to get any smarter at analytics than Brett and Google Analytics. It's just not going to happen.
To what extent do these metrics inform your media spend, and then to what extent are you measuring the outcomes of that media spend?
Yeah, I think the answer is not as much as we would like to. So at the moment, I think on a scale of 1 to 100, probably 70, 80, maybe at most, for some business units who are fairly advanced. So for example, some of our business units who do very cyclical business, intense amount of business in 3 months, it's hugely, all these analytics hugely inform every piece of dollar that we spend. But we have many smaller business units where we haven't made quite as much headway. So it's very much a journey that we're on. But the interesting thing is, the challenge now is not tools or metrics, the challenge is mindset. Actually, just evolving the thinking and the mindset and decision making so they can actually make use of the strategy and platform we have. There's nothing lacking in terms of technology. Actually, there should be no more features added to any more tools out there. Please. Thanks. Oh yes, of course. No, it's okay.
No, I'm just wondering.
You can only embarrass me in front of Google.
No, I'll say penetration. But so how do you make statistically sound decisions? Like, how do you know when you have enough data to make a decision or make a choice? Especially for some of your smaller business units.
Yeah. So both from the data warehouse and in the tools that I mentioned, either we have built-in solutions that will measure signal, and unless we get 95% or higher degree of confidence, we won't consider that to be a good and binding result. On the data warehouse side, we have our built-in sort of computations into Brio that will allow us to measure statistical significance. We always shoot for 95% or higher confidence. And so for testing, when we run tests, we try and look at the historical trends and only do tests that we can run long enough to get a signal. So we'll actually compute how many people do we need in each bucket in order to get a statistically significant 95% or higher result. And then, so sometimes it turns out that we want to do this really, really cool test on Google keyword called accounting software, but they want to target it to so low customer segment that will take us 9.5 years to get a signal. That test doesn't happen. So we put all this thought before, and then the right models are already incorporated. So for testing, Informatica does this off the bat. It will tell you when the signal is there. So we use those things. Yeah. Thank you.